Hey everybody, welcome to PK Woodworking, and today we're going to go over my, journey through tools and tool walls, etc. This is what I used to do before. I used to stick all my stuff in drawers, and it was hard to get a hold of and sometimes annoying and get messy, and then one of my kids would take a tool and I'd never be able to find it, etc. So I went down a path where I decided at some point in time, this is a terrible picture by the way, but at some point in time in my last shop where I decided, I need to do something different. So this is a rehash of the original pictures I showed you up front. But the bottom line is I figured out a way to get those tools on a wall instead. So in the new shop, I decided, it was time to take on the project of trying to get the same thing to happen in a bigger scale. I didn't like all the tools that I had previously, and so the mixture also didn't work so well either. So you can't see it real well, but I got them all laid out on my workbench up there, and I'm trying to figure out how it fits. So this time I mounted a bunch of maple plywood on the back wall, and the goal was to put something that looked different than that maple. So I got some walnut to match the front of the back workbench to contrast the maple. So right now I'm thicknessing it because it's what I had to thickness at this point in time on the sander. Had to get it down to around 15/16 because that's when I could use my pocket hole, my low angle pocket hole machine to be able to punch through some low angle pocket holes to mount these to the wall. So you can't see any fasteners of how and why it's on the wall, and it holds up some pretty solid weight. So a lot of sanding going on here to get these done. I didn't video the drilling and sawing of these to make it because it was just really hard to see. But you basically on the bandsaw and the drill press, lay out where your tools are going to be, figure out the right widths and how to space them. And I figured out that it had to be a minimum of 3 inches wide, the low angle pocket screws, so you couldn't see them. So these shelves are all 3 inches wide or wider, depending on what I put on them. And I tried to stagger screwdrivers and nut drivers, etc., so that they took up less space against the front and back. But there's just a lot of sanding that's going to go on here. I'm trying to speed this up in the background as we kind of move forward. But in general, I had to do some cleanup. I had to do some fixing of some things along the way to make it look good before I could throw some finish on here. So I'm going to pause for a second, and then we'll get to the point where we're putting some finish on it and move on to then. So I put my paper on the Husky bench, and I'm going to throw some oil on these real quick and try to get them as covered as possible. And it's definitely challenging when you got places you can't sand, like where you've used the drill press to cut a hole with a Forstner bit, etc. So doing my best to try to get it covered so you can't see some of the difference in the shades. But in general, this was kind of tedious. Took a little bit of time. You're going to see me in a second. There's to the right hand side. You see now the low angle production pocket hole cutter, which is basically a Castle TSM 21 copy from Porter Cable. Works fantastic, and I'm using it to cut them in as I need to. Now I'm putting up the first one on the wall. Well, that's all the screwdrivers. Next one is nut drivers, I believe, going up. I had to work on a few of these to get them to fit. So you're going to see me take them down every once in a while, go over to the bandsaw, cut some new stuff, go back in there and re-get them up on the wall. But you'll just see a progression of me getting these up on the wall of the ones that I had already worked out. Those are picks that went up. I think the next stuff is going to be probably my dog holes. Yeah, it's probably the dog holes right there. And I'm going to work across from left to right. You'll see it go up, and I'll jump in when it makes sense to give you guys some more context. Now, making these for the chisels is always a special kind of look at how you're going to put a groove in there that holds the chisel so it won't come off the wall, but in the same way makes it easy to get out. So each chisel needed a different kind of pathway to do it. So it's just a hit and miss, trial and error kind of thing. I figured it out the last time I was doing it out of the maple I did for the previous workshop, and helped me out to do this quicker on this. Now I'm kind of making some of the easy shelves that are going to hold tools that don't need a lot of slots cut in and out of them. And I'm just sanding them, measuring them, making sure they work, finishing them, and then they'll go back up on the wall real quick. He ended up needing some more lumber, so I'm sanding and cutting some more of that walnut to make sure I've got some for, I think, the woodpecker square that needed to go up on the top. Probably took the biggest piece. So I'm just finishing them, doing my thing, going back and trying to make sure that it looks as consistent as possible and making sure that the finish is drying before I try to put too much on it. I know you're seeing me sitting down and slacking every once in a while, but really I'm just making sure I'm waiting enough time for the oil to dry, to wipe it back off, etc. And then I'm going through trying to measure out how to get things to work. The challenging one is the pliers. That one is definitely a challenge the last time I did it. And then doing it again this time out of the actual walnut was definitely a challenge. So I kind of got it figured out, and now I'm finishing off all these pieces and getting them put together so that I can put the final ones up on the wall in just a second. You can see that I've got that U-shaped piece right there, and I'm just putting a dowel kind of on the front of it that keeps those at a specific distance as you put the pliers in it. Kind of the most elegant way I can figure to get the pliers and the scissors, etc., to fit on the wall. Things I use all the time. So you'll see in the pictures at the end. And so back to the sweeping and cleanup again as usual. But I've gotten down here to basically the nitty gritty of the end, and you can see the final pictures here of how it turned out. I've actually added something or couple things since then, but I'm really proud of how this turned out. It makes it really easy for me to use the stuff, see what's there, see what's missing, and where it all goes back. So if you enjoyed it, do me a favor and subscribe. Appreciate it.